So, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is the relaunch of the Inside Out Effect podcast, Unleash the Power Within. And I'm your host, Stephen Jakes. And today on this relaunch, what a great opportunity and a really great person to kick off the relaunch of the podcast. I have with me Billy Schwer. Billy is a boxer, or was a professional boxer. He had 138 fights. 45 of them as a pro, and went on to become the British, Commonwealth, European and World IBO Welter-Weight champion. Now, Billy is now a professional speaker. He's a performance coach, and he also helps at the Samaritan. And he's just finished his second book on how to be a winner, and a great book it is too. And so Billy's mission is to help business leaders and their teams live a life of passion, power and purpose, and to help them win in every aspect of their life. So what better opportunity now is to bring the champ himself in, my good friend Billy Schwer. How you doing, Billy? Thanks for joining. I know you're a busy man and giving up the time today to do this interview and this podcast for the viewers and the people that get to watch it. How are you doing, my friend? And how's life?
I'm on a mission to rock the world and cause a phenomenon.
Good.
Stephen, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, my friend.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's nice. I'm so glad because obviously we got to have meet through Kate, who obviously was quite important in the delivery of the book. A wonderful lady. She's got my content for my books, my ads, and I've got the pleasure to help, and I've helped Kate with the work that I do. She introduced me to you, and really ever since then it's been
Kate is my lifesaver for sure.
Yeah,
she's been immense in allowing me to live the life that I'm living. And you know, I've always said to myself, right, to surround myself who are cleverer than me.
Yeah,
surround yourself with people, which ain't all that difficult for me. So
don't be so harsh on yourself, mate.
Kate's one of them really clever people. So she's really good. Corner. She's got my back. She's in my corner. She's part of the team, and because without teamwork, the dream ain't going to work, right? So it's surrounding what I get, and what I had as a boxer was a good corner. You need a good team around you, and Kate is a huge part of that, which then allows me to just to be and do what I love doing, and being with people, and it's having the support. So that's to allow that, and that's crucial for us all to really consider.
Yeah.
Who's in your corner? Who's got your back?
Yeah.
Who's fighting for you, alongside you, and with you? That's the bit. Because if there's any confrontation and any resistance within your inner circle, that slows things down.
Yeah. You all need everyone pulling in the same direction, really, don't you? And
if everyone's aligned and you're driving the team, which is aligned, moving in the same direction, and that's vital. And listen, it's getting the right people around you. That's so important. Yeah. And if everyone's bought into the vision, the future, which we'll talk about later as well, and I just get that for myself, and it's because that allows me for my vision to become my reality, and it's in the future, and that's living into that kind of future has me feel a certain way. And listen, life ain't perfect, and it's tough, and it's hard, and it's great, and I love it, and it's brilliant, and it's all of that all at the same time for us all.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And so Kate's been instrumental with me with writing my new website, and I'm really giving a big push really now for what I do, because you know the successes I've had, and having worked with you, and obviously you're well aware. I've got Kate to go through my website and rewrite the whole thing so it actually lands with the people that are reading, and it's not about me, so to speak.
And the thing about it is, right, so Kate and I work together. You work with Kate and myself. I've worked with you.
Yeah.
Kate's worked with you. You've supported us, and it's and that's the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well,
we can all look to do more of that stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the big failings I had in my life up until a point, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I was thinking I could do it all on my own. I had all the answers, and
Good
I
luck.
didn't need anybody, and I don't need help. And you're ashamed to ask for help because this male projection of we got to be, and it doesn't really work like that. And
Yeah.
sadly, which we might come on to later, that really
Sure.
broke me and destroyed me. But I really want to talk about you, really, because obviously Billy the boxer. How really did you get into the it's like a deadly sport? You have to be a
Yeah.
certain type of people, not only to be a boxer, but to be a success in it. Tell us a bit about how you got into boxing and where it all
Yeah.
started for you.
And it's interesting because people find this bit fascinating. So amateur boxing is very different to professional boxing. So you can't become a professional boxer without doing a bit of amateur boxing.
Yeah,
But mainly the successful professional boxers have had a pretty good amateur career. They've done their time, their apprenticeship, so to speak.
yeah.
Most fighters, not all, but it's very rare that a fighter can come not do too much in the amateur ranks. But Audley Harris, what did he do? He had a
It was
big
the Olympics when he
career.
did the
Yeah,
Olympics.
no, see, he had. You got AJ. I'm not sure if he had a big amateur career, but Audley did because he was Olympics. Yeah, so AJ was Olympic champion. So obviously that's at an elite level. So most champions have come through that process.
Yeah.
So then it's like a lot. I mean, you're not allowed to box until you're 11 anyway in the UK. But I started at 8, and a lot of fighters started before that.
Yeah.
Some guys you hear about. So I started at 8, and so my dad used to be a boxer. So he was the Irish featherweight champion. So he was very successful as an amateur boxer. And then when I was 8, he took me. He created a gym. We used to go to this gym. He set this gym up, and it was in the back. It was in the grounds of this old church in Luton,
Yeah.
and the Holy Ghost. It was called the Holy Ghost Club. It's like an Irish club. And
Yeah.
downstairs underground, they had a spare room. So we set up a boxing club down there. And I can remember that. I can remember that. It was cold. We used to put the ring up, and it was like old school. And that's how it started. And I can remember that clearly. That as being an 8-year-old, being in that room with other kids, and it got really hot and sweaty. You'd slip on the floor, and it wasn't a proper gym. It's just a makeshift.
Yeah.
It was like a classroom or something. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah. So
teaching
didn't
different
you go
things.
to, was it Berkhamsted Boys Club? Was that where you?
So then we went there, and then when I at 10, 11, then I went to the Luton Boys Club, which is a boys club.
Yeah.
So then I started there, and then obviously with my dad, because my dad's Irish, so there's a big Irish contingent from Luton. So we ended up going to the Luton Irish Amateur Boxing Club. So then that's how it all started. And then but the question is, how did it all start before that? So then,
Yeah.
because that's the fascinating thing I find with people is because how do we end up the way we end up, right? What
Yeah.
is it that
Absolutely.
has me do that, you do that, they do that? What's that about? And it's when I went through a crisis later on in my life, which caused me and forced me, like yourself, to go and have a little look. And I wanted to explore what was it that had me go into the ring as a professional boxer prepared to die.
Yeah.
If I step into the ring prepared to die, then on the other side of that, I'm prepared to do the other thing, which is not an acceptable thing to say because boxing is barbaric and it's beautiful and it's brutal. As a professional boxer, you go into the ring to cause bodily damage.
Yeah.
Now, people get killed in the boxing ring. So as a professional boxer, I'm fully aware of that and I'm prepared for it. So that mindset, I was just intrigued and fascinated. That ain't normal, is it?
Yeah.
Where does that come
It
from?
come from? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then because obviously the work I've been doing now, I've been doing it for over 20 years,
Wow.
looking at and discovering and in this kind of conversation for a long time. And I've tracked it all back. I've dismantled and unraveled Billy the Boxer
Yeah.
because because Billy the Boxer really served Billy the Boxer, but the traits of Billy the Boxer didn't serve Billy. And what I realized is what had me be a champion in the ring, being aggressive, domineering, selfish, inconsiderate, always right, was like that. All that's what had me become a world champion. But then being that way in my life, it didn't. It just had me fail.
Yeah.
It's like, ask my ex-wife; she'll tell you.
Yeah, it's funny because I've worked with several Olympians that in the 2012 Olympics who had exactly the same problem. They were so dedicated to their sport, and all the skills and the dedication and the tools that they used to achieve the elite level in sport. As soon as they come out of the sport, they absolutely crashed and couldn't apply those skills into the real world. And lucky enough, I got to work with him and managed to change a lot of that for him. But I think it's very commonplace, and you see it in football and all sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so boxing is a different sport also,
Yeah.
because you play football, you play golf, you play rugby, you don't play boxing. If you think about it, you don't play boxing. So boxers are a different animal because the intention is very different. If I'm playing football, my intention, and there might be a bit of argy-bargy, a bit of roughness going on, but the intention is, if you're a professional, is to get the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
When you step into the ring, the intention is to cause your opponent damage such that he's incapacitated. So you either stop him, that's your intention, which is, that mindset is very different. And then, what has you be that way in the ring and survive in that environment, when you come out of it, it's like people come out of the army, the services guys, they come out, they've got PTSD, they've got all of that stuff going on, which is traumatic. So that being a fighter is, so your eat, sleep, train is 24/7, because I'm going in the ring prepared to die, and I've got all of that going on all of the time. So then I had to train so hard, because how I engineered it in my head, the belief I had, if I wasn't prepared and trained like beyond, I'm going to go and get killed.
Yeah.
So I'm living with that every day. Every day, I'm preparing to go into battle, gladiator, I might get killed.
Yeah.
So, and that's got to have an effect somehow, somewhere, at some point.
Yeah. So you said in your book that you sort of like a memory that stood out was when you was your two sisters.
Yeah.
And sort of really that was sort of a point where you had some internal or created an internal belief about yourself, which you felt the need to overcome, which drove you to that. Was that?
That's it. Yeah. And yeah. So I've gone back to the moment. It's so clear. I'm in my mum and dad's front room with my two older sisters. I'm 5. So Mandy and Lisa. Lisa is 8 and Mandy's 11. And the 3 of us, like, what do kids do? 2 against 1. What do you do? You sit on them, you pin them to the floor. So I've got Lisa sitting on my chest, and Mandy's got my arms pinned back. So I'm helpless, lying on the floor. And I'm kicking and screaming and fighting, and I couldn't fight them off. I just couldn't get them off because I was a skinny little 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And so what they used to do, because I'm trying to fight them off and I can't fight them off, just to torment me a little bit more. They both had beautiful long blonde hair, and they used to wave their hair in my face. They was like,
Yeah.
and then they used to sing to me. They used to sing to me the Paper Lace song. Billy, don't be a hero, don't be a fool with your life. Billy, don't be a hero, don't be a fool with your life.
Yeah.
Those lyrics will stay with me. And it was in that moment, because I used to hyperventilate, turn blue. I kind of, and I didn't mean there was no bad malice. There was nothing bad in it, and that was. So you mentioned about the belief that I formed as what I was part of that trauma, was I was weak.
Yeah.
But that wasn't. I only got, so that bullying, if you want to call it bullying, tormenting. But I got bullied other times as well. So from 5 till sort of 9, 10ish, there was a group of boys who would, you get like a ring of boys, and someone's in the middle. They push you around.
Yeah.
That if you can imagine that. So I can recall that happening to me as well. And I would go blue and hypervent. I was so sensitive.
Yeah.
And that would cut that. Then it's like my belief is I'm weak. I'm weak.
Yeah.
I'm weak. I'm weak. That's so that decision I made was that was who I was. Then I had that to find so the direction I went in was proving I wasn't.
Yeah. To
Because
overcome it.
I'm clear I could have become a victim of it. I could have become a victim of it and ended up a different personality, a different identity. But then for some reason, which is interesting, I find, I went the other direction. I was trying to prove. So all my life I've been trying to prove I'm not weak, and I still
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously you went in. He said in your first in the book that you lost the first fight. He was in tears. Was it the first fight you lost? He was in
So
tears.
that was my third, my third amateur fight.
Yeah. And
So
so
I'm 11. I'm 11.
So what? So what? So here's the interesting question. So what? At that point, you could go on. Do you know what? You could have confirmed. Do you know what? I am weak. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. But obviously, something in you, obviously, it then pushed you on. So let's go through really like that journey from going through your amateurs into winning the first British title and then moving on from there. And just tell me like really what the highs and the lows, what was required for Billy to get. So I find it fascinating because they're elite individuals have something different about them that most people don't, and some people can be good people. I won't say good people, but but they'll reach a certain level and they don't push themselves on and push themselves on. What was that for you? What pushed you on from that point?
So then, as the 11-year-old kid losing my third amateur boxing fight, and I was devastated, upset, crying, devastated. So that, like you said, I made another decision, but I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So I'm 11 years of age. I'm weak and I'm not good enough. So which was the driver to the catalyst for me to, and like you said, because I could have bailed out at that age. I could have went, oh, I've had enough, but then I continued. But what happened was, I had a success when I was 13. I became a national champion at 13. So I was a national schoolboy champion at 13. So and again, so when I was I'd worked your way. You work your way. It's a national competition. So you're traveling up and down the country as schoolboys. So this school versus that school. That the home counties. I was in the home counties. The home counties are challenging the eastern counties, and it's like the semi-finals. And then do you know what I mean? So there's a big process, and I was very lucky to have the support of my family behind me because mum and dad, we was up and down the country, like they were like dragging them around, and my sisters were coming, and do you know what I mean? So we was up everywhere, and then I had a success when I was 13, but I was boxing at the assembly rooms in Derby, and I remember being so petrified before that fight. I couldn't eat anything the night before. Couldn't sleep. I was a wreck. And when it came to my turn to box, as I was putting the gloves on, my turn was coming. It was like the reckoning. It was coming, and my stomach was churning. And so we go to put the gloves on. I said to my dad, because my dad was my coach, I said, Dad, I don't feel very well. I feel sick. He goes, what do you mean you feel sick? And his Irish accent, what do you mean you feel sick? But Jesus, I don't believe it. This is the fucking final. What do you mean? So he goes, listen, go and be sick then. So I ran off and I found these big drapes, these big velvet drapes, and I got behind them and I threw up. And I mean, have you ever been so nervous you felt sick, right? Well, a lot of us have. So I was physically sick, wiped the sick from my mouth, went back to see my dad, put the gloves on, stepped into the ring, a petrified young man, boxed my heart out for 3 rounds, and then I was crowned a national schoolboy champion. And that was a realization of what was possible, because I'd overcome that stuff and I wasn't really aware of it. I was just being and doing and training and repetition. I was just doing it, practicing, training, and all in the subconscious was all of the stuff that was driving it, which I was unaware of, right, as a child.
Well, you've got to prove you're not weak, haven't you?
That's it, and I'm enough, and I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And then I become a national champion at 13, and then that was So I realised that I can win, I can become something if I can step up, if I can find the courage, step up, put myself at risk, be prepared to fail because you win or lose. So we've talked about like win or lose. It's like in that scenario, there is a winner and a loser.
Yes.
And
I think really in sport.
In sport, yeah. In sport. But in life, we want it to be different, right? We want to create life to be a win-win.
Yes.
Which is what we're all about.
Yes. But you've got that in your book about winning doesn't mean someone has to lose, and that's my ethos, absolutely 100%.
And that's a mindset. So in sport, it's different. So the context is very important to just to be. It's decisive. The context.
Yeah.
So if I step into the ring, it's win or lose. It's win or lose. That's it. But in life, it doesn't have to be so intense. And for a peaceful, calm life, then we want to win, right? That's the thing. So that was so going back to the boxing. So then 13, then I become a national champion again the next year. Then I'm young boxing for Young England, and I'm kind of on this journey, and I'm good at it, and I'm very good at it. And then later on in my teens, so I'm losing some, winning some, and then experiencing disappointment, not getting picked. I mean, I was so disappointed one year. I felt I should have got picked to go to the Commonwealth Games. It's those memories of, and they're all negative, all things that didn't happen. I remember them. I really remember them. Yeah. But then I do remember becoming a champion and all that stuff. But it's the failings. It's not quite getting there. The failings, the losing have been such big lessons. And then getting to a point where I was boxing at the Hilton Hotel in London, and Mickey Duff, who ended up being my manager, was in the audience, and he watched me. I was boxing. It was Young England versus Young East Germany, and I stopped my opponent in the second round. And after the fight, he came up to us and he give us his business card. He said, "If you ever want to turn pro, give us a call." So I was too young then. I didn't want to turn pro. So, but a couple of years later, that's when I decided to turn pro. I was 21. So I'd had that amateur experience.
Can you remember that moment when you've gone, do you know what? I'm going to do this. Do you remember that moment?
I do, because I'll tell you what happened. Again, it was the ABA championships is like the national championships, the Amateur Boxing Association. It's the elite level of amateur boxing, and it's the competition to win. And so I've been in it for a few years. I got to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and I got cut and all sorts of stuff. But this particular year, I got to the final, which is at the Royal Albert Hall, and I lost on a split decision on points, and I was so disappointed. I should have won it. It was like one of them ones. Well, when on a fight on a split decision, it could go any way.
Yeah. But
it didn't go my way. And I was so disappointed. And again, it was directly after that fight. I was 21. That was the disappointment. And it was like, and I was like, the ultimate thing for an amateur boxer is to go to the Olympics. So then the conversation in my head was, well, the Olympics is a long way away. And because of my experience of not getting picked before, I was thinking, I don't want to risk that, because that's a lot of time. Because if it might have been 3 years maybe, but I'd have to wait, and you've got no guarantee. So at 21, 3 years, that's a lot of time in a professional sporting manner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then you become pro, and then obviously and then you went on to obviously then go, like I said, you went in with the British and the Commonwealth.
Yeah. So turned pro with Mickey Duff, my manager. I had 17 fights really quickly. So within a couple of years, I was out every 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've really, because I was knocking everyone out. I was flying, and I had great management. I had great team around me. I had great support. And then, so after 17 successful fights, I challenged for the British and Commonwealth title. I was 23.
Yeah.
At the Royal Albert Hall, we're top of the bill there, and that was just a magical moment. I boxed out of my skin. It was like incredible. And so I become the British and Commonwealth champion. But then, so I defended it 3 months later. I lost the title. I got 3 cuts So they stopped the fight on cut. So they stopped that. I lost the titles.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of, I was really aware of how the emotional roller coaster ride of the professional athlete, what that was like.
Yeah.
So I had all the amateur experience, and now I'm in the thick of it with the professional game as well. Success, disappointment, like it's just round the corner. You never know what's round the corner. So then I'd lost the titles, but then I had a rematch. I had a fight in between, and because I had good management, we got a rematch.
Yeah.
And then I beat the guy on a rematch, so I regained the titles, and then here we go again. And then obviously the dream was to get a shot at the world title, which is what happened. So after a few more, had a little run of successful fights, defended the title a few times, did that, and then I got a shot at the world title. And that
you beat was he a Colombian, was he, or
no, that was later. So if you remember my story, so my first attempt at the world title, I won it a bit later. I won it on my first attempt.
oh, okay.
So my first attempt for the world title was at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. So I'm a kid from Luton, 25. I'm top of the bill in Las Vegas. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
So I stand outside I stand outside the MGM Grand, right? And I look up, and like 30 foot up in the air is a big display unit, and my name is flashing in lights. It's like Billy Schwer, Luton. Unbelievable. So I don't know if you're aware of my hometown of Luton. It can be it can be a little bit rough around the edges, right?
Yeah.
So this was a big deal. This was a really big deal. And I was boxing a Mexican guy called Rafael Ruelas and Michael Buffer. Let's get ready to rumble. He was the MC.
Wow.
So the fight started, and
were you overwhelmed by that? What do you think?
No, I was.
You're really focused in on the fight, and all of the blitz and glitz didn't affect you.
Well, you're in the zone. You're doing your work. It's what you do, and you can't allow. So I've become very good at disassociating with all of that, and you're working. It's like you've got to be good at that stuff because you can't get mangled up in it. Because if you do, it drains your energy, and you're just going to lose it. So you become very, very good at separating, disassociating, and being in that like zone.
Zoning in,
zoning in, and that's. I mean, I was so certain I was going to win the fight. I even had a bet on myself. But about three rounds into the fight, I got a big cut over my eye, so blood everywhere. Luckily, I had Denny Mancini in my corner, who's the best cuts man in the world. So he patched me up. We continued to box on, but world title fights ain't easy to win, right? Especially in Vegas. But a couple of rounds later, I got another over the other eye. So it was like a bloodbath. And the referee comes over to my corner after the 7th round. He looks at me. He looks at my cuts man, Denny, and he said, "This is what he said to me, kid. I'm gonna give you one more round." What it meant was, you got to go and knock him out in this next round. I'm going to stop the fight because the damage was so bad. So, have you ever felt under pressure to perform? Right, right? So I came out, and that round was really good for me, but I didn't knock him out.
Yeah,
didn't knock him out, so he stopped the fight. So that was my first attempt at the world title, which was unsuccessful. So then we come back from Vegas. Because I just challenged for the world title, I'm now ranked #1 in Europe. So I'm the mandatory challenger for the European title because I'm world ranked now.
Yeah.
So the world, Europe. So I get a shot at the European title. So we do a couple of fights in between. Then I go to Spain. I'm the #1 challenger. We go to Spain, Zaragoza, in northern Spain, and we're in an Olympic stadium. And it was immense, and it was a brutal fight. But I knocked him out in the 10th round, and it was a real hard fight. It was a great fight. He was voted contest of the year by the European Boxing News, and it was a bit of an epic. So I won the European title, brought the title back home, defended it 3 times in London at the York and Bethnal Green, which then moved me back up the world rankings. So then we get another another shot at the world title, which was at Wembley Arena. I'm ranked #1 in the world, and I'm fighting the very best, an American guy, Stevie Johnson. And the fight starts. Man, he is so quick. He is so fast. He's the best in the world. He's brilliant. He's awkward. He's brilliant. He's so fast. And I get cut again. And anyway, it goes the full 12 rounds, and then I lose on points. So I lost that second attempt on points. But there was a lot of controversy after the fight because he failed the drug test.
Wow.
Yeah. No wonder I couldn't catch him.
No, that's just so fast.
Exactly. I just couldn't catch him. It's like he was on something, and he was on something.
Yeah.
So, but he got off at a technicality. So again, it's like the disappointments that we have to get through in life.
Yeah, and the injustice of it as well.
The injustice, the cheating. Have you ever felt cheated? Life's hard, and it's the injustice of it, because some of those things are out of our control.
Absolutely.
So what I learned was from that experience was sometimes, man, you just got to let it go. You got to let things go, because I was going to take him to court. I was going to do all of that. The British Boxing Board of Control couldn't do anything. It was just, and I realised that, right, let it go. And I was inactive for 12 months after that fight. So that was a cost. There was a cost to it as well. Now, it cost me time. So I let that go. Then the 12 months of inactivity, that was that. Then, so I changed. So my manager was, then I went self-managed. So I did all of that. And then, so I eventually get another shot at the world title, which was my third attempt. Wembley Conference Centre, boxing Colin Dunn. Again, it was a brilliant, epic fight. Goes 12 rounds. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, I've got this one. And I thought I got it throughout the fight, but it was a close. It ended up being a really close fight.
Yeah.
So there we are, waiting for the decision, and the announcer, ladies and gentlemen, the winner is. And I'm thinking, fuck, done it. Colin Dunn. So I lost again.
Wow.
So we lifted his hand, and I lost that on a split decision. So that could have went either way as well.
It must be really difficult when you think you know you've won it, and then all of a sudden it's sort of like a double disappointment, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. So and that's life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then it's being able to be with that. And then I realised, okay, so I'd failed 3 times. So I've been the British champion, the Commonwealth champion, the European champion. I'd failed 3 times to become a world champion. So I'm doubting myself, right?
Yeah.
Is it really possible? Listen, I've done all of that. Am I good enough? You know, the old belief that I had was rearing itself. Am I good enough? Not good enough. So it's confronting. So boxing sport confronts you have to take yourself on. And then then I carried on and I got another shot at the world title. So that just in itself, the whole thing about the persistence of the ability to keep going in the face of the hardships and defeat and the upsets, and as we all have to, right? We all have to dig deep and pull something up from somewhere, and sometimes it's tough. It's tough, I know that. So then I get another shot at the world title again, Wembley Conference Centre, boxing this Colombian guy, Newton Villarreal.
Yeah.
So I box him, and the bell goes, the fight starts. So I had a dream start. I hit him with a right hand in the second round, and he hits the canvas. He goes over and hits the canvas, and I think, oh, at last, I got an easy fight. And I thought, if he gets up from that, he shouldn't get up. He can't get up from that. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I've
seen the video. I watched the video. There's a clip.
If he gets up from there, I'm going home. So he got up, didn't he? So he got up, and we battled on round after round after round after round, and it goes the full distance, the full 12 rounds. And so there I am again in the centre of the ring, awaiting the decision. I look out into the crowd. I can see my mum. I can hear my sisters, and everyone's there, and all the guys who are ringside. They've been there right the way through my career, like family.
Yeah.
And at this particular time, this is 137 fights later, like 44 as a pro, but this was 20 years later. I had my first contest when I was 11. This is 20 years and 137 fights later.
Wow.
But wow, yeah, it's like when you look at it like that, it's like, man, there's something going on in here.
Yeah, and also all of the times that the nearly times that you've had to
nearly
as well.
Yeah. So then that was a moment.
Yeah. So when they said, and the winner is, what was that?
So that was the thing, right? So I got to hear the words I've been waiting all my life to hear.
Yeah.
And as a fighter, when they say, and the new, when they say the new, because that's it, you've done it. The new, that's it. The new IBO light welterweight champion of the world, Billy Schwer. So I had achieved all that I'd set out to achieve in my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, yeah. But then after the fight,
was that short-lived?
It was momentarily, because after the fight, I go back to the changing room. The doctor sees me, you have to get medical clearance stuff, and the doctor's there, and I'm all right. I feel all right, and then as time starts to pass, I start to not quite feel right. So we'd organised a big after-fight party in Luton. So we're all going from Wembley. Everyone leaves, goes back. Is going to go out to the club, and we're going to go and celebrate. And I'm in the car with my wife at the time. My mum and dad are in the car behind. We're driving along, and I don't feel good. I start to feel sick. So I said, pull the car over. I've got to be sick. So I got out of the car, and I was violently sick. But luckily enough, we was back in Luton at that time. And so the Luton and Dunstable Hospital, which is, I've been there a few times. So luckily it was just round the corner. So we went straight to the hospital, missed the party. Everyone got pissed about me. Everyone's going, where's Billy? Where's Billy? And I'm in, they keep me in hospital for 2 days.
Wow.
So I'm in hospital for 2 days. I come out, I got concussion. So I'm the champion. So it was kind of it was a relief as well. There's a big relief there to have achieved it. So then, but me being me, I went away on a quick little holiday, come back and started getting ready for my first defence. So I go to get to work, try organise the next fight 3 months later. And then, so I'm training for that fight. And I can remember it again, I got punched in the head and I thought, oh, this doesn't feel right. So I had concussion, but I hadn't got over the concussion. But I didn't tell anyone. Nobody knew. That was one of my flaws from back in the day, not speaking my truth or saying what was there. There's a couple of times through my career I should have done that, but I didn't. I didn't tell anyone, didn't, just got on with it. I just wanted to make this world title work for me and to get the financial freedom and all of that stuff that goes with it. And that was that. So anyway, that was the mistake that I made. So then I had my first defence of the title, and I got knocked out in the 11th round. So then I get carried out of the ring on a stretcher, put into the back of an ambulance, and then we go back to hospital. Sirens blaring, we're dodging through the traffic. I mean, I was conscious, but I was uncertain of my future health. I was frightened.
Yeah.
Because I used to step up into the ring, as I mentioned earlier, prepared to die. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm about to. Because I know people who have died. I know people who have been brain damaged, and I'm there, and I'm a bit frightened because it ain't right. So they get me to hospital. We have a brain scan, all of that. They put me out of the way because all the press were there trying to find me because it was newsworthy.
Yeah.
Another fighter getting, do you know what I mean? Damaged fighter.
Yeah.
So, but luckily enough, I was okay. But it is that night in hospital, I realised that my life as I know it is over.
Yeah.
And that was when I made the toughest decision I've ever made to retire from boxing.
Yeah. How old were you then, Billy?
31.
31. So you're still relatively young. You're still
baby.
In relatively young. As I mean, I started my first business at 31, and that was when my journey started. And sort of for you, your journey ended. So
yeah,
So what now for Billy?
What do you know at 31? You're still a kid, aren't you?
Yeah. And all you know is fighting. You
think you're not, but you are really when you look back, because the experiences that you've had, and that was the challenging time. Is that transition from being Billy the boxer, from a kid of 8 years of age, for 23 years, so 8 to 31, 23 years, that's what I do. Then it's like, now what?
Yeah.
Now
So,
what?
yeah. So obviously that would have had a negative effect on you losing the title in its own right, but then you would have also had the after effect of what now. So where did you work? What was that transition period like for you? And I know you said, you know, that you tried lots of different things in your books. You want to be a film star, and then, you know, and I think you did a couple of films, didn't you? So you did a couple of films.
I did a few films. Yeah, I was rubbish.
Yeah.
Rubbish.
Well, obviously,
I was rubbish. I was rubbish at pretty much everything I tried.
yeah, and you did well. You went back on the building site, didn't you? And you want to be a personal trainer, photographer. You want to be in the city. You had all these ideas, but
Yeah.
what was that? That must have been quite difficult times, I
And so it's interesting. Whoever's listening to this, give yourself a bit of a break. If you haven't found your thing, or whatever your thing is, if you're exploring, because I had to go and explore. So the films, I was going to be a film star. Did all that. Did a few films. I was going to be a model. I was with a modeling agency called Uglies. Right. The name says it all, doesn't it? They cater for people with kind of unusual looking faces.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to play. Yeah.
That kind of, you could get some work there, I think.
All right, and I could, mate.
With your ugly mug. Yeah. So that was another thing. Yeah, did the films, and I was going to be a photographer. I played about that, took up golf, deep sea diving, horse riding, all of that. I was nutritional supplement range, and I was going to open a wine bar, a restaurant. I pursued that, but everything I pursued it. I didn't just have an idea. I'd go and get training, do that, and then to go and open a wine bar, a restaurant, you have to get a license. So I did that and failed the exam and did that. Then I parked that up. That would put that on the shelf.
Yeah.
And then because I'm a carpenter by trade. So before I turned pro, I went and did an apprenticeship as a carpenter. So I did that. I squeezed that in from when I left school. I did that from 17 to 19 and a half. So I managed to do that while I was training as an amateur, boxing for the country. And so I was kind of figuring that out. And then when I turned pro, I worked for myself as a carpenter, but then I've just focused on the boxing. So I thought about going back to that, becoming a site manager. So I'm on site laboring with a mate of mine with a view of possibly being a site manager. I was buying and selling houses when I was boxing. I was buying and flipping them around and renting them out. So I like all that side of life, and I was doing all sorts of things. And I was going to get a job in the city, trading on the stock market. I pursued that. I found a guy who was going to support me, but that wasn't either. I was going to be a boat skipper. I had these visions of driving these big yachts around the south of France and the Bahamas. So I pursued that. I found a guy, and he took me out on his boat. We're on the North Sea in a rusty old boat, and we're trying to read maps, and I'm going green and throwing up, and I'm being, this ain't it, I was it.
Yeah.
But my point is, for anyone listening, just from what I'm sharing, is I would pursue something. Now, all of that could have been 10 years.
Yeah.
That wasn't like in 6 months. That was a process over time. And I persistently pursued my purpose. Whatever that was, whatever your purpose is, whoever's listening to that, you may not be clear about what it is. So I was doing this, I tried that, and I failed at that, and I did that, I didn't like that. And you know what, I connected with because all those things left me feeling, this ain't it. You don't feel right, do you know what I mean? So those inner feelings, sometimes we got to pay attention to and listen. That's why I kept parking. I would do something, park it up, and do something else. Now, if you looked at that from the outset, you might go, you're fucking nuts. Yeah. Can't you do something and just stick to it?
Yeah.
But I proved that I could, because I've done boxing for 20 years. Yeah. So I knew I could do that, but I wasn't prepared to sacrifice my life doing something I didn't really want to do. And that's really hard for us.
Yeah. I know there's a big percentage of the population that do that.
survive,
well.
right? We're surviving. And
Yeah.
but we know it's hard. It's hard finding your thing. And then if you find your thing to make money from your thing, it's very difficult. So some of us we got to put food at the table. We got to put it's hard
Yes.
to survive, to get through life day to day, because all of a sudden the years pass by, they flicker by. Then all of a sudden, I was with a guy yesterday, and I worked in his company. He's celebrating his 10th anniversary of his company, and I did some work with his company back at the beginning. It's like 10 years later. It's like, and he's doing very, very well. And it's amazing for people to stick with something and succeed at it and survive at it. And because life's hard, it's
Yeah.
hard.
I
Not
know that from my own personal experience,
yeah,
what I do, because what I do is so not mainstream, and it's like I'm a crazy man. Even though I get results, it's starting to like unfold now. But I mean, I've been doing this 7 years now, and I certainly haven't got a Porsche on the driveway yet. And it is like that roller coaster. Some months I have really good months, and other months you don't hear from anybody. And so
same.
it is about being dedicated and sticking to it, which is really interesting because obviously there was a turning point there for you. And like when I read the book, and and I saw the book that you mentioned, and I read this book. I read this book in 2012, and after my 9/11 moment, we'll call it, or when my whole life just collapsed in every area of my life. I was, I was like, well, what the hell? What do I do? Where do I go? And I read the Joe Dispenza book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and it completely changed my whole worldview of
Yeah.
mental health and who we are and what we do and all the rest of it. And you said in your book that was the book that you read, and I couldn't believe it. It was how we both had that book that was sort of like I would say a game changer, but a trajectory change in
It's
your
a
life.
game. So that was like a game changer. But I got connected with that book. That was much later into my personal transformation.
Yeah.
So my personal transformation started way, way back. I did a program called the Landmark Forum.
Yes, I know of that.
So Werner Erhard is the creator of that. It's a global organization. It was started in the 70s. Werner Erhard was the creator of it, and
Yeah.
it evolved into the Landmark Forum. And I did that. I never forget the date, August 2003, right? Over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm about 2 years into my retirement. So I've had 2 years, the worst 2 years of my life. Worst 2 years. So depressed, mentally breaking down, wrecked my
I'm one of them 2 years as well.
yeah, so I wrecked my marriage, which ended in divorce, and all the stuff that I was trying and investments that I was making, some of them went wrong. So I ended up going bankrupt as well. So that's another thing to share is the depression, the breakdown, the divorce, the bankruptcy, home repossession, having no money, having no future, ending up. So in that period, so while I'm in pursuit of all these, trying to do the boat skippering and all of that, I'm mangled and I'm transforming myself all at the same time. And there were periods that I went through like suicidal. So you mentioned about the Samaritan. So I volunteer as a Samaritan today because I know what it feels like to be in crisis as we do, right? So I'm in crisis, and then I go on this transformational journey, and it's not like I did the Landmark Forum, and honestly, I walked out of the building never to be the same ever again. It rocked my world.
Yeah.
And the future started to look different. But the future wasn't a perfect future because I started to transform myself on the journey. So whoever's listening to this, if you're on a journey and you fall off it, and you take a bit of a stumble and you go backwards, it's all right. Give yourself a bit of a break and just pick yourself up and go again. Because I was doing that for years. I was in transformation. Then I was fucking it all up, and then I was in and I'm in the mangle all the time. And then I'd have moments of clarity, and then life was great. And then my conditioning would go and sabotage it.
Sabotage it, the
All of
self-sabotage
that. So
machine,
I'm constantly at war with myself.
yeah,
And that's when I came up, that's when I put those two words together,
yeah, mental
mental
boxing,
and boxing.
yeah,
I was internally mental boxing myself, and that's how that got sort of created. And
yeah,
I was in the depths of despair at times. And then I was breaking through it, and I was unraveling myself. And man, what a journey that was! It was ugly. It was horrible
yeah,
to face my ugly truth
yeah.
for myself.
It's so funny you say that because almost exactly the same things that you're talking about that you went through and what you did, it mirrors, literally mirrors my life. And it's so uncanny when I hear about what you went through, the bankruptcy, the losing of your family.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, I mean, I lost my daughter as well. I had a lot of history of stuff, but all of the things that you said happened to you at this particular point happened to me, not at the same time, but what I'm saying to you is it happened at the same time. All these things happened to me at once. And it was just like this bang, 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 I losing my business, everything. And I was suicidal. And obviously why I get into what I get in today. And my wake up moment was doing in the NLP course. I didn't do landmark, I did NLP, but I came out of that similar to you. From
yeah,
that point forward, I was like, why have I been told to do all of this stuff when inherently I know that I've been told I have to live with it, manage it, cope with it. You know, what don't kill you makes you stronger. And I'm like, hang on a minute, this is I've been told all of this stuff, and I've now just experienced something different. And my thing is I got really pissed off and angry because I've been told all this stuff by the professionals, and actually you could fucking change it.
yeah,
And I spent, this was my 2 years. I literally lost everybody, my friends, my social life, all my money, my home, everyone deserted me, and I was left in this house for 2 years on my own. And I wanted to discover, and I was suicidal. I went to my parents' house and told them, do it right. And it was so funny. And I got bankrupt, I was bankrupt. And all of a sudden I did that and come out with wanting to learning why I've been told of this stuff and come out the other side and started what I'm doing now. It's so similar that how two totally different
yeah.
people.
So can you articulate just in a sentence what you do now? So
Well,
whoever's listening, just in case they don't know.
yeah, so we're not allowed to say cure, but what I basically do is almost that. I know and I learn what so it's cause and effect. So even your thought is, people say change your thinking, positive things. They're all, even your thoughts are effect, because the energy of the context of the thought has already been created, whether it's going to be an angry thought, a sad thought. So I learned very early on that all of why most of the stuff and why we got such a problem in the world is because we're symptom and effect management. Live with it, manage it, cope with it, go for a walk, do things to make you feel good. That's good for your mental health. Well, no, it's not, because you've still got the problem. You're just avoiding it. So in a nutshell, I learned what caused anxiety, depression, PTSD, how it was created, where it's stored inside of us. We're just biological computers, and where it's stored, and was able to go in to delete, remove, and reprogram all of the things in the past that now in your present moment gets you to experience anxiety, depression. The problem that we've got in the world now is we just put labels on things. Anxiety is just a label of multiple things happening at once, and then they call it a disorder, and it's not a disorder. It's where we've got a past event where we've stored information that makes us experience. Everything is just an experience, and I've just found out and learned how to find it, delete it, and remove it. And as you well know from the few things that we've done, and
Yeah,
nobody's now got it. You don't need anything. You don't need to go out and walk in. Do it because you like it, but you don't need to go out and walk in nature. And you don't need to. It's not about your diet. It's about what happened in the past, because you are the sum total of the time you're born to the present day. So if there's something wrong, it happened 3 seconds ago or before. And if we can find it and change it, it changes you now. And so that's limiting beliefs and core beliefs. And it's, there's so many different levels to it, but it's actually a very simple process. And it saddens me that I've been doing this sort of 6 or 7 years, and why haven't people of the
yeah,
world, or whether it's the NHS or whether it's the Priory or these people,
yeah.
actually come and knocked on my door and said, wow, this could change the landscape for everybody globally. And it's not.
Have you knocked on their door?
I'm gonna
Yeah,
knock on their door now, but I have a little bit of a fear, really, of, because we're so we're so you need to have a medical,
Yeah.
medical qualification. Now you're qualified in symptoms and selling drugs or selling remedies, and that's not what I do. So I've got a few obstacles to overcome because I know, I mean, there's a few people that have self-sabotaged the journey, but 99% of the 1,000 odd people that have come to me, I've been able to find what it is and get rid of it. And sometimes I can do that in one session, and sometimes it might take 8 or 16, depending on the person, how many belief systems they've got. The biggest problem is that we have in the world is we make up shit, we believe the shit we make up, and then we try and solve the imaginary problem, and it never really works. So,
It's like
so that's what I do now. We go.
It's insanity.
It is insanity. And the thing is that we've got so many Facebook, YouTube educators.
Sorry, you can say that last bit again. I think that's really important for us to hear again. That last bit. We make shit up.
Yeah. So what we do is we go in when we try and understand it. So when we try and understand it, we're understanding it from the thing that's already happened, right? So when we become aware, it's too late. It's already been created. We're now aware. We're in the symptom. And when we try and understand it and analyze it and become aware of it, we then don't like that. And what we do is we then make up shit and believe the shit we make up. Oh, I know what the problem is. It's you, Sheila. I was all right until I met you. Oh, it's because I'm not eating properly. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm not getting enough walking with nature. I need to do more exercise, right? So what we do is we make up that shit because that's what we think, because we've gone on YouTube and listened to people that are qualified in symptoms. And then we believe the shit we make up. So if you go, right, I need to do more exercise, the next day you're signing up to a gym and you're doing all your exercise, but actually all you're doing is you're not actually dealing with the problem at all. Yeah. So what we're actually doing is we're solving imaginary problems that don't exist. And then it comes back and hits us again. And we go, oh, no, well, I'm doing the exercise. I'll tell you what I'm on, it's my diet. So now you're going to change your diet. And what I've learned is that anxiety, depression, ADHD, all of these symptoms that we have nothing to do with your diet and has nothing to do with the lack of exercise. It's because there's been a shock or a trauma or an event in the past where you've made an agreement to be, think, or feel in a certain way that makes up who you are now. It's part of your identity. So that's the problem. We make up shit and we believe the shit we make up and then try and solve it.
That's it right there. Say that one more time. Those three things. Say them again.
We make up shit. And we believe the shit we make up, and then we go and try and solve the thing that we've made up.
Boom.
That's the problem.
That's a great post.
Yeah.
That's a great post.
That's
a great post, that is.
Yeah.
That's all you should tell everyone.
Yeah, I do, but I don't think people people go, no, I don't. And they go, we've just made up shit now already. Do you know what I mean? And this is what comes into me, and I said to you about my ethos about, winning doesn't mean someone has to lose. Because I think in a lot of these cases, if you're selling products and all of this stuff, someone's winning, they're getting your money, but does it really solve your problem? Does it actually really fix you? And in 99% of cases, it doesn't. It can make a small impact. Yeah. So, this is one of the things that I say is that, let's talk about our problems. Now, we do need to talk about it, but talking about it doesn't solve the problem, unless it's a logical problem. So it's imagine if you've got a leaky tap upstairs, you're not going to phone up a plumber and go, hello, mate, I've got a leaky tap upstairs. The water's coming through my roof. And he comes around and goes, I'll tell you what that is. And he'll tell you, he goes, you know what's going on? You've got a bit of the nut there and the water's coming down. Yeah. And you go, oh, okay, thanks, mate. Here's me money. Because understanding the problem doesn't fix the problem.
Brilliant.
Right? And then you got other people go, I'll tell you what you need to do. I'm a qualified. You need to put a bucket underneath and then the water won't. Right? So we've got all of these things that we're not, what you actually want is the plumber to come in, find what the cause is and fix the cause.
Tighten the nut when it's done.
Insane. And
that's a great analogy, the way that you put that with the plumber, the leak, and that's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
For lots of us to really understand, because that makes complete sense.
Yeah, or you could take the other thing that we have, another thing to say, is like you take your car's broken and it's splittering, it breaking down and it starts and then it stops. You take it to a garage and if he turns around and you go and say, listen, mate, my car's a little bit iffy, and he has a look, he goes, well, I'll tell you what you want to do. Put better quality petrol in, right? Put some chemicals in there, right? Take it for a drive around the block 2 miles every morning, and then give it about 3 weeks and it'll be perfectly normal again. And you go, what are you talking about, mate? Fix the car, right? Yeah. But when it comes to us, we'll go, oh, well, I need to go and eat my quinoa and my rice and I'll do a jog round the block and right. And it doesn't fix the problem. And and that's where we're we're massively trapped in that paradigm of trying to understand, but it's too late. It's too late. Cause and effect.
Yeah.
And we get people trying to change your thoughts. Well, you can't. The thoughts already been created.
Yeah.
Thoughts already been created. Where did the energy, the sadness that makes you have a sad thought, or the happy, or where's that coming from?
You're taking, you're getting people to the source of the thought back in
Yeah, the
the
energy. It's like an energy contract that you've got stored subconsciously. And we are biological computers, and having worked with you'll get a better understanding of what that is. But there's multiple layers to us. There's a logical element, there's an emotional element, there's actually an energetic element, or like a spiritual element, where we can store information in our energetic field.
Is one more powerful than the other?
Well, what I've come to realize is that, I heal a lot of people with sicknesses and illnesses as well, right? So I've healed earache, sore throats, chest infections, water infections, bladder problems, a whole load of different things, right? I've even got rid of abscesses and toothaches, believe it or not. So because basically your body is your subconscious, and so the more that we personalize an event, right? So when an event happens in our life, and you've got to remember, we're just information. Outside is information, we're information. Our senses take that information into our mind, and we make perceptions about it. So if it's you take the shock personally, it can go right the way down to a physical level. So for example, I had a lady come to me who'd been in and out of hospital for 35 years with kidney problems. And kidneys are about abandonment, a sense of abandonment. Not that you've been dropped in the middle of a field, but for her, when she was 5, her dad got taken away into an operation through those double doors. And as a 5-year-old, her perception was, my dad's gone, he's never coming back. So for her, she perceived as being abandoned. And from the age of 5, she's had kidney problems. Now, I found all that and got rid of it, and she's not been back to hospital since.
Wow.
Right? So this is the thing. So if you get a bit pissed off and you get slightly triggered, it might just be a logical thing. You go, I'll tell you what, do you know what? I'm not going to hang around with him anymore. It causes me too much, right? So there's a logical element. Then you've got the emotional element. If it's a little bit more and it's affected you deeper, it affects you emotionally, right? And that'll be guilt, shame, alone, feelings of loss, injustice, burdens, betrayals, fear, feeling lost, feeling not good enough. They're emotional things. But underneath those is what I call them energy contracts. And they're just that contracts and agreements of energy. We store energy. There's something that creates that energy within us, and that energy contract is what drives our thoughts. So depending on the person you are, depending on your programming that you've had environmentally as a child and the peers that you hung around with, depending on you as an individual, how your program defines how you perceive an event and how it can affect us. And I'm not saying that we should all be like cold, because things do affect us. But when we make it about us, we also have belief systems that also need to be changed. Because if you don't change the belief system, every time an event happens, you go, oh, I'm not good enough, no one loves me. And the universe or the outside will just keep bringing in events to enforce that and reaffirm you're absolutely right. You're not good enough, right? So, and so over the time, I've been doing this 7-8 years, and over the time, I started off just doing anxiety and depression because they're the two things. And then what I learned very quickly is it applies to everything, absolutely everything. And so it's been a real tough journey for me, because what you're actually doing is telling all of the so-called qualified professionals that what they're actually doing isn't really helping at all. It's not a win-win. It might help people understand it, but it doesn't ever. If you were bleeding to death and you went to the hospital, you'd want that field. You wouldn't want someone to care and support you through it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. How does that feel? How does that feel, bleeding to death? Look, I'm dying. Oh no. I'll tell you what, I'll go up the shops for you. I'll tell you what, I'll be there. If you need me, call me. I'm nice. Well, fix the cut, and that's what we've got. It's nice to care and support people, but you're keeping people in pain and suffering, and that's sort of like my mission, really, is to try and take this to the world and help as many people as possible, because so many people are suffering. And I say so many people are suffering unnecessarily. They really are suffering unnecessarily, because there is a solution to it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It goes back to cause and effect.
We love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other problem that I have right now is putting labels on everything. because anxiety by definition is made up of a number of things. It's just a label. But when I go into it, I don't heal anxiety. I heal what was the event, attacked and powerless, and guilt and shame. And so that's all of those things that make up that response. Depression is a loss of territory. That's what it is. It's a loss of your territory, whether it's a identity territory, which could be confidence, it could be trust, purpose. They don't actually exist, but if you feel like you've lost them, you have a sense of loss of them. And then you can have a loss of your house, your home, your children, your family, loved ones, family members. You'll experience a loss. So depression is just a label that they put on a culmination of emotions that merge into a whole thing that they put a label on and say you've got depression. Now you haven't got anything, because if I can get rid of it, you never had it.
It's amazing. It's amazing what you're doing. It's amazing. So then it's getting that out there, right? It's spreading the word and doing what you got to do to get that.
Yeah, the fact that it's now being addressed is great, but it's just, for me, I find it really hard because they keep talking about, doing all of these things, especially with the sports. I hear a lot of people in the sports talking about mental health and stuff, and performance anxiety and stuff like that. All of that can really be fixed. I feel like ringing up my team and saying, listen, you've got players here talking about I can fix that in probably 2 hours. Give me 2 hours with him and he'll go out and be amazing, right? Because all of that stuff that's making him overthink and doubting himself will all be gone. So, and I'm hoping in time that I can build once this gets out there and recognised as a thing that actually really works, is actually being able to put in a training program to teach many other people to do it. I've taught mothers, and they're healing their kids, and it's great.
It's coming, right? It's coming.
Yeah, I hope so. Billy.
We got plenty of time, mate. We got decades in front of us, so there's time.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's coming round. The thing is, as well, as probably my mistake, is I've been trying to do this on my own.
Yeah.
And
impossible.
What we talked about at the very beginning. Yeah. And it's just about finding the right people. And obviously, from my story, like I said to you when I met you, other than being murdered, kidnapped, losing it, well, I've been kidnapped by the police and beaten up for just screeched up, threw me in a van, beat me up and nicked me for no reason at all. So it's sort of kidnapped, but other than being kidnapped, murdered and losing a limb, I mean, I've pretty much been through everything. And so for me, and in my last, I had a very big business, a very successful business, and I got hammered by every single one of them. So the trust in being with people and confiding in them has gone to a minimum. And I've just felt like I locked myself away for 2 years, and I've sort of tried to do this alone. And, as I've fixed and healed my own stuff from the past, I'm a completely different individual. The stuff doesn't affect me anymore. I absolutely got massively heartbroken at the age of 21. It totally destroyed my life, which really, really changed the trajectory of my life. Which, it's horrendous. But, so for me, it's been trying to do this myself. We said at the very beginning about, you can't really do it. You need a team of people. And I've been fortunate to meet Kate. I've been fortunate to my best friend. He's a web designer. So I've got him. I've got another amazing guy who was the catalyst, really, that fundamentally has not only he saved my life, but he was the one that really taught me about depression and anxiety and where it's stored. And he had a very basic understanding of it. And together we've developed this now and got better. He's an amazing guy, Jonathan, and he specialises in chronic pain, and he can fix people's chronic pain. And he's an amazing guy. So I've been very fortunate since, my 9/11 moment and getting screwed by absolutely every single person that was in my life. They deserted me, left me. My money went, my children went, my house went, car, income. I was left with nothing and had to, like you, grab back. I had nothing and nobody. And I had to go, right, I had to ask myself down and go again, because I had no other choice. It was, for me, it was either I end my life, I'm going to kill myself, or I've got to find a solution. They were the only two options that I had. And sadly, I was in such a bad way that I did say, I went to my parents' house and told them, I've made my decision. I didn't even pick the place on the train track where I was going, mate. It was that. And I went back to my parents and told them, and I feel so bad about that, because imagine them hearing that. But it's so funny, because the thing that my mother said at the time was, if you could change the way you feel, you wouldn't want to do it. And I went, all right, listen, I've done all the therapies. I've done all the therapies, right? You can't. You got to just live with it. And
She said that.
he said that, and that was the moment, because I come home that night and went on YouTube and typed in "Can you change the way you feel?" And I was scrolling through, and on about page 6 there was this guy called David Schneider, and he had a little seminar with about 8 people in the room teaching NLP, and I was at 1:30 in the morning. I was broken beyond all. I got up like literally as a broken man, and I thought, I'm going to try this exercise that he was doing on the video, and literally this thing that I had, this feeling, this emotion, pain that I had, literally went by about 25% and couldn't get it back.
Wow.
And I'm like, hang on a minute, I've been told that you can't do this by psychologists and PhD psychologists, and it's funny, I've got a lady coming here in a few days' time who's got a degree in psychology and having had anxiety for 30 years and can't function anymore. Right? It just tells you about it. So and I've been told that you can't do this stuff. So that's when I said NLP for me. I went back to my mum the next day and I went, I think I found something. I'll pay, I'll put it in my credit card. And you remember, like, you know, we talk about the universe and how things are coincidental. This guy, Ewan Mockery, he was at Inspire 360, a great guy, really lovely guy, really on the ball. I liked him. He's a really top fella. But he did a 7-day crash course and in London, and I phoned him up, and it was in 3 weeks' time, and he only did one in London a year. Right. So if it weren't in 3 weeks, chances are I'd have been such a bad, I could not have been here. So it was 3 weeks. I phoned them up. They're in Manchester, and I said, "Oh, I want to do it." She goes, "Sorry, it's too late. It's a 3 months prior learning, because it's a week's crash course." And I said, "I don't care." And she said, "Look, I'll take your money." So my mum paid on the thing. I had a delivery of stuff. And I had to learn the lot in 2 weeks. Wow. And I learned the whole lot, and I ended up getting top marks as well. And that was when I learned that was my first step of learning about how the mind works. And if you've done NLP, about how the mind. And I came out of there like you, a completely transformed person. But at the same time, I was really, really fucked off and angry, because I'd spent so much money and listened to all these qualified people with degrees telling me that I had to live with it and you couldn't change it. And I wanted to know. I was like, I didn't want to do NLP and the hypnotherapy which I learned. I wanted to know how it worked. How does this stuff work then? And that was my thing. And I sat in this house for 2 years. I was living on £10 a week, and my mum was bringing me food for 2 years, and everyone deserted me and left me to it. And then I've a video about how the brain works and how we store information on the mind. And at the end of that 2 years, I had this eureka moment of knowing how everything, and that's sort of really basically
that video. Have you still got? Do you look at that video? Have you still got it?
Yeah, I send it to, so before every session, every client that comes to me, I send them to say
that video that you've sent me.
Yeah.
The one, gotcha. Yeah, that.
Yeah. Because it explains everything. It just explains everything, and the different parts of the brain, and the unconscious, the subconscious, and where all of our decisions and behaviors are made from, and what actually the belief systems are that drive you to make those decisions and choices, which you said in your, if we're going back to your book quickly, if you're right, was about being aware of choices, being aware of the choices that you make.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much of it is unconscious, right?
Absolutely. 100%. So, is there anything else you want to talk about, Billy? I mean, your story's amazing, and it's great. I'm so glad to have been,
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to be with you, and it's great to be here with you, sharing your stuff to get that out into the world as well. As we're both out there doing our best, making a difference to people, creating win-win scenarios.
100%.
For other people, for the greater good. We're doing it. We're having a go.
Yeah. What would be your message to anyone who's listening to this? What could be like Billy's? What's the word? What I'm thinking. What would be Billy's motivational thing? What would you like to convey to people? It might even be, they might be stacking shelves in everybody, or they might be a successful business owner. What would be the key thing that you would like to get across about themselves, and then obviously how you can help them? But what would be your message?
It's like it's committing whether you want to say dreams or committing to what it is that you want for yourself in your life.
Yeah.
It's committing to that, and then it's consistently taking inspired action upon it and doing the work over time to fulfill on it. It ain't going to be easy. It's just commit to your dreams, take inspired action, and just make it happen. And it ain't going to be easy. You got to. It's over time, right? So we experience the time lag, the learning of something, then the marketing of something, and then the sale of something. There's a time lag, we'll go back to myself about when I was going through my tough time. All I wanted to was feel good. I want to feel good, because when I was in my depressive state being, all I was thinking then was, I just want to feel good. I want to feel good, because I'd felt so good prior to that, and then here I am feeling rock bottom. Then I just want to get out of rock bottom and feel good. So every day, I've created my life to the best I can, so that I get the opportunity to feel good every day. So if I can feel good every day, then I've won the day, and then I can do whatever I do, however I do it, on top of that.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, because that's one of my values, is my health, my fitness, and my well-being. So being aligned with that. So if that's in place to feel good, that's number one for me. So it's taking care of self, because not everyone does that either.
No.
Because a lot of people are taking care of others before they take care of themselves. And I really get, as an athlete, and my belief is I had to be 100% ready, otherwise I'm going to go and get killed. So I believe I have to be in the best shape I can be in to be of value and serve others. So as a Samaritan, I can't walk into the Samaritans dealing with all my own stuff and not being helped as best I can. That's just in my head. Because I want to go and serve people, and I can serve people if I'm feeling good and my energy, my frequency is raised.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm giving out. And that's important. That's the thing for us all really to consider.
I was talking about good selfish and bad selfish, and I don't know if you know about good selfish and bad selfish, and it's so important, because if you're doing stuff that only really you benefit from it, that could be whether you're taking chemical substance, drinking, whatever, if it only benefits you, that's sort of like a bad selfish. But if you're doing something and spending your money on yourself, which improves you, which therefore improves other people, then that's good selfish. And I think we need to distinguish between
right?
What's a good selfish and what's a bad selfish, and focus.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I just want to go about here just before we come off. You said in your book about unlearning things, and for me, it's been that absolute catalyst. I've had to unlearn all of the things. Which is sort of like what my work does, is to unlearn it, but unlearn. And I think that's really
being with that unlearning, because the program will be there, and I'm taking it apart and unraveling it, and you take it away, and it's not there, and then something else crops up. Is life, isn't it?
Yeah. So have you got a program that you do? Have you got a training program, or what is it you've got going for Billy? How can you help? And
so that book is my second book. So what we should do, let's give that away for free to whoever. So let's put the link somewhere to that.
Yeah.
When this goes out, so there'll be a link somewhere. You can go and get this for free. You can download it, and there'll be a physical version of that book. So that is also a group program, and that's a 1-to-1 program. So we've got 7 winning traits. So it's a 7-week program. So that's one of my programs. And then my first book was How Man Up the World Champion. That's like a 12-week program.
Yeah.
So I do that over 12 weeks with individuals, and I've got an ongoing. I mean, some of the guys I've been working with, I've like 3 or 4 years. Some of the guys I'm working with. So there's variations of different stuff. It's all kind of related to performance and that world.
Yeah,
that's what I'm up to, and I speak at events. So I go and talk about how to be a winner at conferences. I work with sales teams, because my work's very good with sales teams, because they're out there performing and getting knocked back, getting upset and disappointed, and coming back from that, all of that stuff. So I do that as well. So I love doing that, being with people, and then I love to be on my own. I like to retract, recover, recuperate, and
go again,
and shut the doors and go and hide. And then go again.
Yeah, exactly. Go again. So you've got a website.
Yes,
Yeah.
billyschwer.com.
Great. That's brilliant, Billy.
So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on all the other stuff. I don't social media. I'm not big into social media, but LinkedIn is the platform that I kind of use a lot.
Yeah.
I got billyschwer.com, my website, so I'm around if you want to find
Right, and
me.
you're easy to get hold of. They can email you. Is there an email?
Yeah, yeah,
In there? Great.
yeah. It's all via my website. LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Like, okay, then so should we wrap it up and call it a day?
It's been a pleasure. We'll have a rematch at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. It's so honestly, I've loved it. It's been really great. Thanks for telling your story, Billy. I find it fascinating when, like I said, elite individuals have got a great story, and what you're doing now, helping people, serving people, is an absolute credit to you, mate. And I think to come to be where you are from where you are, having the experience myself, it's just amazing and making changes in people's lives. So we're going to call this, that's it for today. My name is Stephen Jakes. If you want to find out about the stuff that I do, about healing and getting rid of your anxiety, depression, your PTSD, limiting beliefs, reprogramming that brain and changing things, you can go to my website, which is healingthemind.co.uk. I'm actually having a new website being done right now with the help of our lovely Kate. And so, but there is a website there and you can contact me. Other than that, I will be doing a relaunch of the Inside Out Effect podcast, and it's been an absolute pleasure to get ready to do the very first one. And God bless you, Billy. And so that's it for now. And until the next time, I bid you farewell. Goodbye.